Okay, you freakers, I want to let you guys know, you don't even have to try and fool me by commenting good stuff about the Netflix movie. I've seen it, it's bad, the world knows it's bad, I don't care, you know what you're here for. You're here for Death Note, the animation, the classic recap. Let's fracking do it, man. Screw that movie. The show starts with, and I must say, one of the most iconic monologues in all of anime. It's so good that I can't even make fun of it. Like, it's better than Issei's first line in High School DxD, consisting of, I want to see Oppai. It's beautiful. But to cut it short for the sake of time, Light is sick of his world because people do what they're meant to do, evil stuff, and Ryuk is bored in his world because, well, nothing. That's literally the only reason he's fracking boring. Well, in his class, Light sees a random notebook fall from out of nowhere and decides to check it out. He reads the intricate instructions inside the notebook, which mentions the ability to take people's lives using their names. Of course, he thinks of it as a prank because who wouldn't, but decides to be pranked anyways. What's the worst that could happen? Death? Yeah, it's not like that doesn't happen every day. He reads the instructions even more carefully at home and decides to test it out on a criminal who's being televised on live TV. Sorry, need to learn to swallow before I speak. Just like the notebook mentioned, the guy dies after 40 seconds of his name being written, and now Light was a step closer to confirming that he might just have the powers of a god. Being the smart dude he is, he tests it out on some local level thugs. I say local level, but those are some actually pretty extreme thugs. They tried to undress a woman out in broad daylight, and no one decided to bat an eye. Okay, daylight's a strong word, but you get the point, right? He successfully manages to kill the thug boss after writing his name, not like once, but 40 times, because Japanese names are just as hard to write as they are to read. It's not just that he killed the dude. What did he write? A truck comes in and squashes him like a bug. Yeah, that'll do it. Meanwhile, Ryuk is ready to depart to the human world because being a Shinigami sucks and he dropped his death note for someone to pick it up, and we all know who picked it up. 5 days past his first kill, Light is now not just aware of the death note's power. His laugh proves that the man's been enjoying it. His little burst of laughter gets disrupted as he freaks out at the sight of a lanky emo monster just standing there calling him from the dark. Ryuk introduces himself to Light, debunks all the stupid rumors humans had about Shinigamis, and tells him that the notebook is now his. More importantly, he is amazed to see how Light has become such a natural at using the Death Note, and when Light makes a legit statement about his ambition of being a god, Ryuk is convinced that no better human could have picked up this weapon of mayhem, and I couldn't have said it better myself. Light's ownership over the Death Note means that Ryuk now has to stick around with him until it's his time to die, at which point Ryuk will be the one to kill him. Nobody told him that staying with a high school prodigy would mean school time, and if the Shinigami world was boring because of nothing happening, high school is boring for just about every other reason. A lot happens that no one cares about. After a little incident at home, his little sister comes very close to figuring out about Ryuk, because anyone who touches the Death Note can see and hear him. Since our boy has been on a frackin' roll, the ICPO starts to take notice of the sequence of criminal deaths, all of which were a result of a heart attack. They aren't able to come up with an explanation or a plan, which is why Batman from eBay walks in and tells him that L, the greatest detective in the world, has already started to look into this case. L speaks through a laptop and makes his intentions of needing the help of the Japanese task force, as he suspects that the culprit is most likely from Japan. While all this is happening, Light Edison was out here inventing a whole new trap in his drawer, where if anyone besides him tries to get their hands on the Death Note, it would be set on fire instantly. His trap is a little too detailed for me to comprehend, especially now that I've started living with a troll, but we're not going to get into that. Light's killings finally start to be a highlight out there in the real world, enough for society to give him the unofficial title of Kira, a derivative of the word killer. He finds out about his popularity through different internet websites dedicated to Kira, who see him as a savior. Watch us save these nuts. This little moment of triumph is interrupted when a broadcast starts to go live. The message is from Lind L. Taylor, aka L himself. He rambles on a little bit talking about what these deaths are and how they're wrong. None of this really bothers Light until the part where L calls him evil, which triggers him so bad that he forgets he was supposed to just kill the criminals. And so bro becomes a literal child, writes Linda L. Taylor's name, wasting an entire page, which still bothers me to this day. Unsurprisingly, Linda L. Taylor dies on camera, but then the broadcast changes to an L logo and the real L starts to talk. And what ensues is perhaps the coolest anime moment that has stuck with me for so long. L hands Light an L as he uses this little stunt explaining on air that the broadcast was only aired in the Kanto region of Japan, meaning L now knows the city of where Kira lives. lives. Whoa, man, my loins are flaming! Using that little bit of information, he proves that not only can Kida not kill him, but he also doesn't have access to confidential information, as he wasn't aware of the fact that Lind L. Taylor was a recently captured criminal. It was this moment right here that L just frickin' won. Light is absolutely irate and secretly declares war against L in his little room, where even a housefly cannot hear him. How does that make any sense? L's reputation of being the world's greatest detective was not a joke. Just from some compiled data, he's able to deduce that Kida might be a student and has a god complex. What the frick? The police chief is just there looking at his department, sweating balls over the lack of evidence and tumultuous morale. This is why he rarely gets to go home, but when he does get the chance, well, meet the police chief, Sojiro Yagami, the father of light. The person, not like a fracking flashlight. The father of light. He ain't a scientist. Light's dad is much like any other dad in a normal household, oblivious to the fact that his son might just be a technologically smart dude and has access to anything digital ever. With this, he's able to know that L and the police already suspected Kida as a student. He then begins to alter the timings and nature of activities before killing criminals in an attempt to mislead and provoke L. Also, there's a part where the man is playing football, having the time of his life, and somewhere in the world, 15 different people are dying thanks to him, somehow. Of course, this isn't enough to fool L, as he clearly understands what Light was trying to do, yet he is still forced to suspect the police now, as it is clear that Kida has access to police information. This is where the 8D chess part really kicks in, as Light explains that his plan was to make L suspect the police all along and cause an internal conflict between the investigating bodies, something our tiny brains would never see coming. His little plan actually worked, and some of the detectives from the task force resigned from their position, as their names and faces are all out in the open, unlike L. Meanwhile, L had already dispatched a bunch of FBI agents to investigate the family members of the Japanese task force, meaning Light now had a stalker. Oh, how I've missed these frickers. Since Light was being followed, Ryuk started to get a creepy sensation as well, despite the fact that the stalker literally cannot see or hear him. He voluntarily tells Light that there was someone following him, and so begins the masterful orchestra of death. The situation is a bit more than Light can handle for the moment, which is why Ryuk offers him the Shinigami eyes in exchange for half his life. The powers? He will get the ability to see someone's name above their head as soon as he looks at their face. Imagine you had this power today. No need to ask your crush for a name. You can creep on her socials easily. What am I saying? That doesn't even make any sense. As tempting as the offer is, Light refuses because he has a grand plan of ridding the world of criminals and reigning as the supreme god for a very long time. His conversation with Ryuk about deals in the Shinigami world isn't as useless as he thought it was. He realizes that the rules of the Death Note are much more than what they seem. He uses the next 6 criminals as test subjects to determine just how much he can control the victims before the time of their death, realizing that under the laws of physics, anything is possible. Anything physically impossible will not happen, and the victim will just die of a heart attack without following any instructions. The main plan is to use a recent criminal, control his behavior, and set up a certain atmosphere that plays to his advantage. It begins with him going out on a date with random chick number 4, who doesn't matter to the story. Light makes sure that his stalker was following him all the way inside the bus that they board. Not to mention that his stalker, the FBI, was pretty much convinced that at this point, Light was just another normal dude, but he decided to board the bus anyway. Ah, poor guy. The agent sits directly behind Light on the bus, unaware of the fact that there is a criminal on his way to hijack said bus. Look at how happy he is that the bus is being hijacked. Light passes a small note to his date, telling her to calm down as he would take action soon. But the agent sees this note and advises Light to not engage, since it's dangerous. He then starts to question the agent himself about how he was trustable, at which point he shows him an ID. Ray Penber, FBI agent. He then deliberately drops a piece of paper, clear enough for the criminal to see and touch. Seconds after the dude picks up the paper, he starts to panic, shooting mindlessly. It is then clear that he was shooting at Ryuk because the sneaky emo boy dropped the piece of paper from the Death Note itself. The criminal leaves the bus in fear and gets hit by a car on his way out, victim to the grand plan of Mr. Perfect. That poor girl, man. The way to ruin someone's day, bro. Have her go through a hijack and then have her witness a death. Boyfriend of the year. Look, I know he wasn't trying to be a boyfriend, but like still. Ray Penber returns home and talks to his fiance about this little incident, which he thinks is a bit too fishy to be just a coincidence. However, he didn't want her opinion and literally told her that her mouth will be shut once her other mouth starts to produce more mouths. Now that Light has the name of Ray Penber, he has all the time in the world to get him out of the picture, so he decides to play a little more with L, using human bodies, if that was not clear by now. I was really keen on knowing what plan he had for Ray, but I didn't imagine him being in a public place wearing a beanie and a tracksuit. Look at him, fricker, he's screaming the word suspect. If I was Ray, I'd just turn around right then and there and mangle the boy until he didn't move. No time for consequences. But of course, that doesn't happen. Ray takes a transceiver and an envelope from Light and boards a train. Also, while this is happening, Ray is pretty sure he has heard this dude's voice before, but just can't remember where. Inside the envelope are blank spaces where names can be filled out, and he orders Ray to write the name of their chief at the very top. He then gets a file on his laptop from the FBI chief containing the names of all other agents that were active in this case. Light has him write those names as well. So, in short, each of the blank spaces was a part of a sentence that was already written. They were also pages from the death note itself. Having the chief's name on top means he died and did as Light wanted him to, sending a file to Ray, which contained the names of other agents that died as well. The train finally stops at the last station, and Ray steps out. Immediately experiencing discomfort in his chest, he drops down and on his last breath takes a final look inside to see Light being an absolute cold fricker staring him down. This news quickly spreads to the FBI director, who calls off the investigation in Japan and also discloses the fact that the FBI was investigating the Japanese police. An outburst is seen in the task force as they finally understand that Kida has zero morals and L cannot be trusted at all. I mean, I kinda get them. Imagine walking back home from work and Light pulls the same stunt on you, comes from behind, takes your life away by the passing minutes, takes you out to Chuck E. Cheese, orders a pizza, and doesn't share. After that, Soichiro Yagami is concerned about his position as the deputy director of the task force. He tells his family members that what he is doing is dangerous and he might just be the next victim of Kida as they speak. Wouldn't make sense of Light to not say anything here, but really, brother? You'll execute Kida if something were to happen to your dad. Really? What are you gonna do? Share your dad's heart attack? Here, son, take some of my cancer. I'll just spit in your mouth. Soichiro is so shaken by this, in fact, that he begins making big brain moves on the task force, advising them to stay only if they really wanted to, and that they could leave the investigation without risking their jobs. Not really big brain, more like big heart. L sees this as an absolute win and decides to trust the 6 remaining detectives in the room, but they don't feel the same way. So Ichido understands L's plan to some degree, realizing that this was meant to happen. L needed just a few capable and strong individuals rather than a bunch of weak links. Hideki Ida, one of the detectives, is not very happy that things played out this way and walks out at the last moment, leaving only 5 active members of the Kida investigation. The final 5 follow L's instructions and head to his hotel, finally ready to meet the man behind the screen. And that's where we're gonna leave it off today. If y'all want to see some more Death Note, you already know what to do. Get a Netflix subscription. Write the like button and the subscribe button's names in your fracking notebook of death and destruction, and I will see you frickers in the next video. Thank y'all so much for watching. Comment things. Peace!